pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where they're dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where they're dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down through the 7 gates where I'll cast my being to the hands of fate. Take me down to the dragon's lair where myth and legend ride the air. Let me rise on the messenger's wings, let me see what the future brings. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans
comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. To guard the lady fair in the heat of their passion, passion. In the heat of their passion, passion. In the heat of their passion, passion. The grave shall rise again. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. To guard the lady fair in the heat of their passion, passion. In the heat of their passion, passion. In the heat of their passion, passion. The grave shall rise again. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. To court the lady fair in the heat of their passion, passion. In the heat of their passion, passion. In the heat of their passion, passion. The grave shall rise again. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood. Comes the Lord of the greenwood, greenwood.
And the witch is back. And with us this evening is Ray Buckland. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Alicia.
How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good, thanks. Nice to be back.
Yeah. For our viewers who aren't really familiar with the old religions, and also to many of our viewers who may be hearing your name for the first time, could you please tell us about your role in contributing to the craft?
Yes, it was, I guess, one of those things of being in the right place at the right time. Back in the very early 1960s, very late 1950s, I came across Gerald Gardner's book, Witchcraft Today. I had previously read Margaret Murray's 2 books, God of the Witches and the Witch Cult in Western Europe. And then coming across Gardner's book, I found that not only was what much of Murray had said true, but that witchcraft was not only a pre-Christian religion, but that it was still alive and well. And reading all about it, finding about it, so many of the things just clicked with me that I very much wanted to be a part of it. I guess much the same sort of reaction that people even today get when they first come across it. But I very much wanted to be, so I wrote to Gerald Gardner, his publisher, and got a reply from him, and we developed a correspondence. And eventually I was invited to go up to Scotland, actually, to be initiated in Scotland, in Perth, Scotland, was where Monique Wilson lived. She was Lady Olwen, and she was Gerald Gardner's high priestess at that time. And she was to initiate me. So I traveled there, and it developed that although Gerald had had a lot of correspondence from people interested in witchcraft from this country, there were no actual covens established here. Wicca was just sort of coming out of the broom closet at that time, and although there were a few covens scattered around Western Europe, there were not that many. And Gerald much wanted to bring Wicca into the United States, so I was sort of designated as the person to do that. I was initiated in late December, I think it was, November 1963, excuse me, 63. And came back here, and my wife at that time, Rosemary, we started the first coven of Wicca in the United States in the beginning of 1964. This was on Long Island, New York. Gerald had a lot, as I say, had a lot of queries from this country, and he passed on those to me. So he became a sort of clearinghouse for anybody here. Passed them on to me, and then I dealt with them, and through that we were able to start a coven here. And from that, as that grew, then later we were able to gradually bring people up through the degrees, since it is a degree system, to the point where they could break off and start their own covens. And so the whole Wicca movement in this country started with me in New York.
Okay, as, you know, the person who is directly responsible for bringing Wicca to America, what changes have you witnessed over time?
I guess the most amazing change is just the growth of it, the tremendous growth. It has grown tremendously. No one can say, of course, since covens are autonomous, there's no governing body, there's no single leader, so nobody knows exactly how many covens there are, how many witches there are, but we know it's in the tens, if not the hundreds of thousands of Wiccans, practicing Wiccans. So it has grown tremendously, and it's grown also in esteem from being looked upon by non-witches as still being the servants of the devil, workers of black magic and the like, the old medieval feelings about witchcraft. Gradually we've educated people, and it's got to the point where it's now accepted as just another religion, albeit a pagan religion. It's got to the point where it's accepted federally on the federal level. It's accepted by the IRS. There are many established Wiccan churches across the country, federally recognized churches. There are now all sorts of meetings, of Sabbath celebrations, of conferences, of community gatherings of witches, which are done publicly, which are done in places like holiday inns and in public campgrounds all across the country. So this has been a tremendous change from those early days when we were just starting with the one coven.
Well, one elder I was reading about, he commented that traditional craft didn't have any hard defining lines as traditions in and of themselves many years ago. Do you feel that traditional craft has changed over the years?
It definitely has, yes. It was originally, of course, what will be classed as a mystery religion. So it was really close. You had to be initiated into it. There were certain so-called secrets that had to be kept, such as the names of the deities and the working tools and the use of the tools and that. But of course, as it's grown, really as a result of people wanting to get into it, wanting to join it, so much has become public knowledge. There's been any number of people who, like myself, found it and decided, oh, this is what I've been looking for all my life. This is exactly what I want as a religion. I want to be a part of this. And so with this, there's been a lot of knowledge dispensed. A lot of people have written books. I wrote the first book published in this country on the craft, the witchcraft and the inside. And since then, there's been, of course, dozens, now hundreds and hundreds of books written about the craft, presenting different versions of it. Now, initially, there was just the Gardnerian version, and that seemed to be the standard. But then later, other traditions, other versions came along, other variations. And this, I think, is very good, because we're not all the same. We don't all follow the same path. It's much like in Christianity. You could draw a parallel there, where you've got the very strict ceremonial of Roman Catholicism and of Episcopalianism, and then you've got on perhaps the other extreme, you've got Baptists and other groups who are much more lax, much more vocal, much more working from the heart. So in witchcraft, you go from this strict rigidity of Gardnerian to eclectic groups, to Celtic groups, to Saxon groups, to all sorts who have variations. We all have that basic foundation. We all worship the same deities, although we might use different names for them. We all celebrate the seasons at the same time, the Sabbaths at the same time. But this is really where it ends. There are so many variations now with different ethnic backgrounds, different feelings, and many who just put together bits and pieces taken from various traditions into some form of eclectic witchcraft. I think the pros and cons here, though, I think it's wonderful that people can find what is right for them by looking around and finding that with which they'll be most comfortable. But the problem is that it's got almost to the point where just about anything goes as witchcraft now, and nobody can say, well, yes, this is witchcraft, or no, this is not witchcraft, because there's no way of saying what is and what isn't. Anyone can do virtually anything and say, I'm a witch and I'm practicing witchcraft, and there's no one to say, no, you're wrong. So we're getting very watered down, if you like. A lot of this, of course, comes from television, from movies, presenting. Well, in fact, this really started even back in those early days, when a lot of people wanted into the craft, weren't able to find covens because there just weren't enough operating at that time. And just about that time, the book and the movie Rosemary's Baby came out, by R11, which was absolutely about Satanists and Satanism, but it was, unfortunately, it even used the words witch and witchcraft in it, and people thought, oh, this is what it is. And then they put it together with bits and pieces of ceremony and magic and the like, and started their own covens. So even from those early days, from the early 1970s, you got groups forming that really weren't what those who've been initiated would recognize as true witchcraft. And yet, I guess, when it comes down to it, if it's fulfilling the need of someone, if it's following the general path, then really we can't argue with it. But it's very difficult these days to distinguish what one might call authentic witchcraft from any other sort.
Yeah, along those lines, with the emergence of an open pagan community, I've noticed that there's been a lot of misunderstanding and even anger actually directed towards traditional witchcraft, which honestly, did precede it. What are your feelings on that?
I think it's understandable, and it's unfortunate, and I don't think it's avoidable. People, there are always I was going to say the haves and the have-nots, but that's not really the case, I guess. There are those who are brought into traditional witchcraft, who are initiated, and they obviously feel that they are right, they are authentic, and everyone else is wrong. There are those who either cannot get into that or have chosen not to go in that direction, and yet they're doing their thing, and they feel that they are equally authentic. And as I've said, there's a fine line between the two, and you can't really distinguish. And I think so long as there are these two different directions, there will be antagonism. There will be those who will not acknowledge others. Considering that this is supposed to be a religion of love, of brotherly, sisterly love and of doing good. It's very, very unfortunate that we get a lot of these witch wars and pagan wars going on, and so totally unnecessary. But unfortunately, this is human nature.
And what would you say to pagans who might shy away from traditional craft because they feel it adheres to rigid dogma?
Well, again, it's your Baptists against the Roman Catholics. If you don't want the rigid dogma, then okay, you're certainly, there's nothing wrong with you in choosing a different path. But the thing is, we have to live and let live. Okay, if you've chosen your path, this doesn't make the rigid dogma path incorrect or wrong. It's just not right for you. But let those who choose that path go that path, go their way, do their thing. But there's no reason why the two should be in conflict. They need to learn to live together.
Okay. Now, since Wicca is a mystery religion, there's also a lot of misunderstanding surrounding the mysteries. And they're often thought of as secrets that are hidden from the uninitiated. Could you please define the mysteries and the secrets and the differences that lie between the two?
Oh, sure. I'll broadcast all these secrets right now. A lot of what is or was regarded as secret, I think, was totally unnecessary. A good example is the names of the deities. Now, it was thought at one time that, well, in fact, it is so that to know someone's name is to have a power over them of a sort. And this can be demonstrated, and I've written about this, this can be demonstrated very, very simply. If someone I know named John is walking down the street and I see him, I can call out, "Hey, John." And John will stop and turn and see me and probably come towards me. So just by knowing his name, I have altered the course that he was taking. I have changed his direction. I have probably changed his intent just by knowing his name. Now, back in the old days, many centuries ago, it was thought that to know the name of the gods was to be able to have a power over them. And if you had two rival tribes, for example, if you knew the name of your rival's god, then by knowing that name, you could conjure with it. You would have some sort of control over the god and therefore over your rival tribe. So it was important to keep the name of your god secret. Many times there was a name of the god known to the general populace, and then a most secret name known only to the priesthood. This was a sort of safety catch then. Well, this came through into the mysteries. There was more than the names of the gods, the ways of working magic, for instance, the tools that we used. A good example is the Villa of Mysteries in Pompeii, where everyone in Italy, everyone, even the slaves, went to be initiated into the Dionysian mysteries there. And yet, because of the oath of secrecy that was taken, we know virtually nothing about those mysteries today, because everybody kept the secrets. We know we can glean a certain amount from the frescoes painted around the walls and things like this, but we don't know the sum total, the whole nitty-gritty of it. And this is the way it is with mysteries generally, and certainly with Wiccan mysteries, with Wicca as a mystery. There are certain things which are supposed to be secret and known only to the initiates. Now, is this necessary? Quite honestly, I don't think it is. I don't think that if I gave the name of the Gardnerian gods right now, it would make any difference. In fact, their names are, well, no, perhaps they're not. But if I gave the names, if I told you what magical tools are used, these actually have been published already, so it doesn't matter. But I took the oath of Gardnerian back in late 1963, and I've tried to honor it ever since, although I no longer practice Gardnerian. I do honor that oath, and I do keep those secrets, even though they've been published elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think perhaps one of the things which is important is the working of magic. And in Gardnerian, there's a particular way of working magic which has been found to be extremely effective. Different traditions have worked up different ways of doing things, and more or less by trial and error you find what's the most effective way of doing magic.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably behooves you to keep that secret, especially if you found it to be really effective. So I can see that. But this is really the sum total of the mysteries of the keeping secret. Some of it is steeped in the past, and I personally think it is unnecessary today, but why not follow the tradition? Other things, there might be some grain of truth in the fact that secrets need to be kept.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Many pagans and also too a lot of Wiccans have an issue with the degree system and the hierarchy of traditional Wicca, scorning traditional practice to the point of forming magical working groups and covens without having any real instruction or training. What are your feelings on this?
Again, it's a bit of a dichotomy. I can see degree systems are very, very good if they are adhered to rigidly. Now, Gardnerian was originally a degree system. Well, it still is a degree system, but it was originally adhered to very rigidly, and it worked very, very well. There were 3 degrees, and you were initiated, of course, into the first degree, and after a certain period of time, of at least a year and a day, you would go through training and all that time. If you were found suitable, then you would be brought up to the second degree and gone up to the third degree. At the third degree, then you were in a position where you could actually start a new coven. So the degree system showed your abilities, if you like, your magical abilities, your ritual abilities, showed whether or not you were suitable for running a coven, whether or not you could handle the responsibilities of it, etc., etc. So it was very good, and it worked very, very well. Unfortunately, as time went on into the 60s and 70s, there were so many people pressing to come into Gardnerian. Let's stick with Gardnerian for the moment. Pressing to come into Gardnerian, that people were brought in a much shorter time and taken through the degrees in a much shorter time. There wasn't the vetting, the sorting the sheep from the goats sort of thing in the initial stages to find who was really suitable for the craft and for whom the craft was really, really suitable, seeing who would really fit in, who was could handle responsibility, could keep the secret, and so on. So eventually you got a lot of people come in who weren't really suitable for the craft, who weren't really acknowledging the responsibilities, who were quite frankly on power trips, who just wanted to be leaders of covens and have lots of covens under them. So it kind of destroyed the system. Now, the degree system is still going on in Gardnerian, but it's nowhere near as effective as it used to be. And I think in many ways it's outlived its usefulness. Now, there are other traditions. I'll take my own, the one I founded, the Saxon tradition, as an example, which was founded as a tradition without a degree system, because I didn't think it was necessary. First of all, it was presented as a public tradition, something which was absolutely open, so that those who couldn't find Wicca anywhere else would have something they could join, which at least was based on the true foundations of Wicca. So it was an open tradition with no secrets. If there were no secrets, this sort of took away some of the idea of a degree system. There was no oath to be taken. There was training which was open to everyone. And at the end of a year and a day, anyone could take over leadership of the coven or could be voted in to lead the coven. If they did a good job, then they will probably be voted in the next year around. If they didn't do a good job, then somebody else will be brought in. And this sort of system gave everyone a chance to be a leader and everyone a chance to show what they could do, and gave them the experience of leading. So in that respect, it was better perhaps than a rigid degree system. It did preclude the ego trip, and this was one of the reasons that I created that system, because at that particular time, back in 1973, at that particular time, there was a tremendous display of power trips and ego trips on the part of certain high priestesses on the East Coast. So I wanted to get away from that and to create a system where the power trip could not come into play. So there are pluses and minuses for degree systems and for non-degree systems. And once again, it's a question of what suits you. If you feel that you need a degree system, if you need to be acknowledged as to what your competence is, if you need to work yourself through and then to have a graduation ceremony in effect and be sent off to do your own thing, then fine, go that route, but you don't have to.
Okay. Several years ago, Steve and I were speaking about how many books were published on Wicca now as opposed to many years ago. And he commented that he felt just about everything that there was to know, and in fact he said 99%, was available on the internet or in books. What percentage of information do you feel is currently printed in books, and what advantages do you feel traditional craft could offer over learning from books?
I think, probably 99% of Wicca is available in books, and I don't think that's a bad thing. The problem is for anyone coming to the craft or wanting to come to the craft, sorting out what is the worthwhile material from that which is an absolute waste of time, that which is absolute gobbledygook. You can learn from books, but it's like any other subject. You can get so much more by personal tuition. Certainly with Wicca, when I first came into Gardnerian, there was the Book of Shadows, there were all the things that were written, there was the rigid instruction, but there was so much of an oral tradition there as well, stuff which was not written down. Now, I'm sure a lot of that is now written down, if not written as part of traditional teachings or non-traditional teachings. At least it's written down somewhere. Certainly various forms of working magic, certainly various forms of doing divination, of doing healing. These are available various places. But getting that personal tuition from someone whom you know and presumably respect, this means so much more than just picking up a book, hoping you got the right book, hoping that the author knew what he was talking about, and then trying to learn from that book. Personal instruction is way ahead of strictly book learning, in my opinion.
Okay. And what do you feel about the current level of teaching that you see in the craft today? Do you feel we are in danger of losing any of its unique qualities?
I think it's already lost most of its unique qualities. The unique qualities that were there with, as I said earlier, with the degree systems and how rigid it was. It was rigid, but it was rigid for a purpose, and that purpose was what kept it true, if you like, what kept it valid. And I think, as I said earlier, that it's been so watered down these days that it's difficult certainly to ascertain what is good witchcraft in the sense of authentic, traditional, and what is just nonsense which somebody is putting out, or what is a mixture of witchcraft and ceremonial magic and folk magic and what have you. I think the whole definition of witchcraft has changed so much over the last 20, 30 years or so that it's very difficult to be specific these days. I couldn't stand up and say, okay, now this is what witchcraft is, because immediately somebody else would stand up and say, but I do so-and-so, and this is witchcraft also. So it's lost a lot, I think.
Okay. What would you define as an ideal relationship between a teacher and a student of the craft, and what should a student look for and expect in a teacher?
Obviously there needs to be comfort between the two. There needs to be mutual respect, very definitely, not only of student to teacher, but also teacher to student. There has to be absolute honesty. There has to be absolute dedication. Let's see. What else does there have to be? Anything has to be absolute. but certainly, and mutual. I mean, it's a two-way street, learning and teaching in the craft. This is no place for a guru. There's no place for somebody who wants to lord it over somebody else. I remember, again, back in what I term the early days, the late 60s, early 70s, I remember hearing of this gentleman, this guy down in Florida who was teaching people the craft, and he was making them clean out toilets with their bare hands and doing all sorts of things, which I guess he was trying to instill some sort of discipline, but this was not the way to do it. No. Discipline is discipline in the circle, is magical discipline and so on. And the way he was going about it was certainly not garnering any sort of respect, any mutual feelings at all. In fact, everybody was loathing him. So you have to have this two-way street. You have to have this working together. It's a partnership, student and teacher.
Okay. And what would you recommend for someone who's just starting on the path and wanted to learn more?
Buy my books. Well, in actual fact, I would have to say that because I know what I've written, I know its authenticity, whereas I can't speak necessarily for other authors. I know there are a lot of good books out there. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of very good books out there. But it's a question of finding those which will set your feet on the right path. And certainly in my books, and I know other authors do the same thing, this is not a rigid path. What I try to present is the basics of which the way in which I take my big blue Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft.
Which I have here with me.
Great. Here I try to give the whole basis of witchcraft, the foundation, how to do rituals, the Sabbath, and so on. But this is a foundation, and I encourage people to go through that, to learn the basics, and then to adapt and adopt and make it their religion. Religion, to me, is a very, very personal thing. It's something where you should not have to compromise in any way. And so if this guy, Ray Buckland, says that the circle is done in such and such a way, and the altar is placed in the center of the circle, for instance, and you think, see, I would like to have the altar over in the east where the sun rises. Then, for goodness sake, move the altar over to the east and have it there for your rituals. This guy Buckland doesn't know everything, and his word is not law. So this is the thing to find books, and as I say, I know what's in mine, so I can push those, whereas I don't know what's necessarily what's in other people's. But take what you can find that seems good and then make it your own.
Mm-hmm. And what advice would you have for someone who wasn't sure what tradition or path he or she might like to follow?
Well, this is true for most people starting out. You really don't know what's out there, and the best thing is to read everything you can, the good and the bad, so that you can sort out in your own mind what seems to make sense. Many times it's not a question of finding the correct tradition for you and joining it, because many times you can't find a coven right away if you want to join a coven. But don't let that stop you. Join one and see how it is, see what they do, but try to keep an open mind. Know that there's no reason why you shouldn't leave that coven and join another one when you find it, if the other one seems more appropriate for you. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to look around. Mm-hmm. I would especially encourage people to practice solitary witchcraft. Mm-hmm. In my book, Wicca for One, I really pushed the fact that actually solitary witches were there long before coven witches or covens were formed. And I think it's something which everyone should experience. It isn't for everyone eventually. Many people just don't like to be there alone, to have no one to call upon for help when they need it, no one for guidance if they need it. And yet there are others who don't like the group situation and don't like to be ordered around or told to do things or whatever. Mm-hmm. So both paths are needed, but I think any newcomer needs to experience both to decide which is right, and to try as many different traditions, or certainly find out about as many different traditions as possible. Mm. There are books which include lists of the different traditions and what their basic ideas are, and just read everything you can. Mm-hmm.
Is there any wisdom or advice you'd like to share with our viewers in closing?
I thought I'd been doing that.
Anything we haven't covered yet?
Yeah. I guess the thing I would emphasize is be true to yourself. Mm-hmm. Know within your heart what it is that you want from deity, how you view God and Goddess, how you view nature, how you relate to God, Goddess, all that is. Know what you want, how you want to relate to it, and know how you feel most comfortable doing this. Don't settle for anything. Don't compromise. Sometimes we have to compromise, if only for a while, till we find exactly what's right, and while we're searching, and then we can modify what we find and work it into what we eventually want. Don't be made to do anything that you don't want to do. If somebody says, yes, you can join our coven, but you have to dance naked down the high street every Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and you're not comfortable doing this, then go somewhere else. It doesn't matter if that's the only coven you found. Leave it and continue the search. Don't do anything that you're not comfortable doing. Nobody should be forced to do anything. So the main thing is to get your own mind straight as to what you want, and then to be true to yourself, and this in turn will bring you truth in the craft.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you again so much for doing an interview.
Oh, you're very, very welcome, Alicia. It's my pleasure.
Okay. And I wish you blessed be and good evening.
And good evening to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Keepers of the Flame is produced by the Pantheon Temple. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider donating to the Pantheon Temple. We are a 501c3 nonprofit temple and the first Wiccan and Pagan temple in the state of Connecticut. It is our dream to someday have land in a building. Please help us achieve this goal. And for more information about us and our events, please go to our website at www.pantheontemple.org. Please visit paganodyssey.com for Beltane, a Pagan Odyssey Festival, Connecticut's oldest and original pagan festival by the Pantheon Temple. And please visit Keepers of the Flame at our new website at www.keepersoftheflametv.com.
Everyone knows of the great success with wolf reintroduction at Yellowstone. But did you know that one of the handful of centers exclusively dedicated to teaching about wolves and their part in the National Species Survival Plan is right here in South Salem? Come meet our Ambassador Pack member Atka, Arctic Gray Wolf and Alpha Educator. Come meet our newest Ambassador Pack members, Alewa and Zephyr. They're Canadian Rocky Mountain Gray Wolf littermates that will join with Atka in helping us fulfill our education mission. Come hear about our Mexican Gray and Red Wolf packs and perhaps get a glimpse of these rare, critically endangered North American mammals that were once extinct in the wild. Wolf Conservation Center. Come visit. Come learn. Come make a difference.
Where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where they're dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down through the 7 gates where I'll cast my being to the hands of fate. Take me down to the dragon's lair where myth and legend ride the air. Let me rise on the messenger's wings. Let me see what the future brings. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where they're dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive.